I know the Curry family will be leaving for Tennessee soon, so I want to catch them at least when a couple of them are here, and I wanted to express my appreciation for their faithfulness and their commitment to this congregation. Mary Lawrence is with us today, and Madeline Gray, John's mother, is here, and of course Virginia and Jack and Mary Dell, and Mary Dell was baptized here almost 8 years ago. And thank you for everything you've done, Mary Lawrence, and the rest of the family for First Presbyterian, and John and Mary Lawrence for your tremendous contributions to Kansas State athletics and the Manhattan community. So we will miss you very much. Thank you. Here is some wisdom from a book entitled Wit and Wisdom from the Peanut Butter Gang. When your mom is mad at your dad, don't let her brush your hair. When your mother is mad and asks you, do I look stupid? It's best not to answer. There's another book called Why God Made Mothers, answers given by second graders to the following questions. And one question was, what kind of little girl was your mom? And one child replied, they say she used to be nice. There are a lot of things that our mothers teach us, like these particular recollections. The mother taught me about religion. She said, you better pray that will come out of the carpet. My mother taught me about weather. This room of yours looks like a tornado. My mother taught me about the circle of life. I brought you into this world, I can take you out. John wrote in 1 John, Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. If God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. Mothers have taught us to love one another unconditionally, as Christ has told us to love one another with no strings attached. And so it can be said for mothers, they seem to be the cradle of faith and love. And this love and faith have encouraged qualities in their children, including confidence and security and responsibility. There's hardly anybody else who holds more faith in the future for their children than their mothers. When it comes to their kids, the glass is half full, not half empty. Most mothers are the embodiment of the Colossians passage that was read this morning by Bruce. Put on a heart of compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. In many ways, mothers put aside what they might otherwise prefer to do for the sake of their children's and families' needs. Perhaps the new appliance doesn't get purchased, or the new car gets put off for a while, or the new landscaping is put further down on the priority list, or the new clothes, they can wait, or the vacation is postponed. Many of these are put on hold for the sake of providing. But that's the way it is with mothers and others who keep giving. They are in continual giving up mode so that others may feel secure and loved. When I look back to the reasons that I loved and admired my mother, it's difficult to quantify them. It's like the feeling Abraham must have had when God told him to count the stars. How does one do it? It's infinite. When I think of mothers and grandmothers, I think of their love, of course, but I also think of their unlimited interest in our lives, their interest in our friends' lives, their cheerfulness, their love for life, their faith, their optimism. Although George Washington's mother, Mary Ball Washington, had some unusual quirks, and at times was even intolerable to him for a variety of reasons, she still had inspirational words for our first president at the close of her life. Washington Post reported that while George Washington's mother lay dying of cancer, she said to her son, "Go, George, fulfill the high destinies heaven appears to have intended for you. Go, my son, and may heaven's and a mother's blessing be with you always." The good and wonderful spirits of mothers are lessons for us all, and they inspire us, don't they, in many ways. Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Dave Winfield, who spent most of his playing years with the San Diego Padres and the New York Yankees, grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, where his father left him, left his brother, left his mother, when Dave Winfield was only 3 years old. Thrust into a single-parent role, his mother worked hard, diligently, to support him and his brother, bringing them both up in their neighborhood Lutheran church in St. Paul. But Dave Winfield added about his mother that her values and her character had a tremendous impact on him, developing his own sense of responsibility for others, so much that when he became a rookie, his salary was only $15,000 a year. Imagine that today. But this didn't stop him from donating $1,000 of that $15,000 for scholarships for minority students in St. Paul who did well academically and athletically. He also, at the age of 21, began buying blocks of tickets so families who couldn't afford go to games, could now do so. All this led him to become the first professional athlete to establish a charitable foundation. He picked up these lessons of generosity from the lessons of his mother. The year his mother died of cancer at the age of 66, he left his team early, just before his season's end, to be with her in her final days. I know all this because he was scheduled to speak at our church in Michigan at the same time his mother became gravely ill. He said, "I was having a good year as a baseball player, but all of a sudden, it meant nothing. I lost my best friend and the person I respected the most." You know, mothers fit perfectly the fourth verse of the hymn, "For the Beauty of the Earth," which we will sing later. For the joy of human love, brother, sister, parent, child, friends on earth and friends above, for all gentle thoughts and mild, Lord of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. You know, the old saying, you only have one mom, and when she's gone, what can easily follow is a big hole in the heart. But what can also easily follow is the legacy of strength and faith and confidence that she leaves behind. Proverbs tell us, strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and to teach him kindness is on her tongue. Her children rise up and bless her husband also. Facebook Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg, in her most recent book, as reported by The Economist magazine, called Option B, Facing Adversity, Building Resilience and Finding Joy, alludes to the many women who are single mothers who raise children alone without a partner. Ms. Sandberg realized this when she found herself suddenly on her own when she lost her husband, the Silicon Valley entrepreneur David Goldberg, from sudden heart complications. She described her condition as being in a fog of grief. And widowhood at a young age, she said, was no club that anyone wants to join, she herself being a mother of two. She describes the enormous shock and grief of her children after they received the news that their father was never coming home. And then Mrs. Sandberg mentioned her own mother, who literally slept in her bed for a month, holding her as she cried each night. No matter the age, your mother will always be your mother. She will always be there to comfort you when no one else can. So there is the need to consistently urge ourselves to say to our mothers, thank you for loving me forever. Say it while you can. Some of you may have heard or read or heard even here the children's story by Robert Munsch entitled Love You Forever, a story about the endless love of a mother. It goes like this. A mother held her new baby and very slowly rocked him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And while she held him, she sang, I love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you will be. The baby grew. He grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was 2 years old. And he ran all around the house. He pulled all the books off the shelves. Pulled all the food out of the refrigerator. He took his mother's watch and flushed it down the toilet. Sometimes his mother would say, this kid is driving me crazy. But at nighttime, when that 2-year-old was quiet, she opened the door to his room. She crawled across the floor. She looked up over the side of his bed. And if he was really asleep, she picked him up and she rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang the song, I love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you will be. The little boy grew and he grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was 9 years old and he never wanted to come in for dinner, never wanted to take a bath. When Grandma visited, he always said some bad words. Sometimes his mother wanted to sell him to the zoo. But at nighttime, when he was asleep, my mother quietly opened the door to his room and crawled across the floor and looked up over the side of the bed and rocked the baby and said, if he was really asleep, she picked up that 9-year-old boy and she rocked him back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang the song, I love you forever, I like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you will be. The boy grew, he grew and he grew and he grew. He grew until he was a teenager. He had strange friends. He wore strange clothes. He listened to strange music. Sometimes his mother felt like she was in the zoo. But at that nighttime, when that teenager was asleep, the mother opened the door to his room, crawled across the floor, and looked up over the side of the bed. And if he was really asleep, she picked up that great big boy, and she rocked him back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you will be. The teenager grew and grew and he grew and he grew. He grew up until he was a grown-up man. He left home and got a house across town. If all the lights in her son's house were out, she opened his bedroom door and she would crawl across the floor and looked up over the side of his bed. And if that great big man was really asleep, she picked him up and rocked him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And while she rocked him, she sang the song, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you will be. Well, that mother, she got older. She got older and older. And one day she called up her son and said, you better come see me because I'm very old and I'm sick. So her son came to see her. When he came to the door, she tried to sing the song. I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. But she couldn't finish because she was too old and sick. The son went to his mother and he picked her up and he rocked her back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And he sang his song, this song. I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mommy you will be. When the son came home that night, he stood for a long time at the top of the stairs. And then he went into the room where his new baby daughter was sleeping. He picked her up in his arms and very slowly rocked her back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And while he rocked her, he sang the song, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you will be.